Yo, what up, guys? Welcome to Faded Town, the number one Pokemon podcast in the world. These are facts. He might not agree over here, but it doesn't matter. You gotta focus. He's gotta be one of the guys that Pokestats that shit, or Google it, go to your local library. Fucking just look that shit up. You'll find that answer. It's Friday, guys. And we're back with another one-on-one. And the champ is here, guys. The fucking champ is here. Also, the Taco Bell fucking meme lord that brought Taco Bell to the Pokemon community. We got Nico. What's going on, man?
Yeah, it's going good. I mean, Taco Bell is busted, so what can I
Dude, the fucking Twitch chat was going wild. Every time you played Taco Bell. I was like, dude, where's his sponsorship? This is ridiculous.
Hit me up, Taco Bell, if you see this.
I mean, it is the number one Pokemon podcast in the world. They're obviously watching. But let's just jump into it. How did you get into this game at all?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, just like a lot of people that like are part of Pokemon, I've been having like some connection to Pokemon as far as like since I can remember. When I was like 5-6 years old, even. I was like just collecting cards, of course. Like, I mean, back then I was too young, or at least my parents thought I was too young to actually have like a Game Boy or something. So it was mostly just like watching other people play, watching the anime, of course, and collecting cards, as I said. Then it just continued. Eventually, I played the games and everything. And then in school, it was usually like right after elementary school. Most people, like that was when Yu-Gi-Oh! Got like super popular, at least in Germany. So we played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! But then eventually one guy came with like a giant pile of Pokemon cards. And of course, I had cards like for my life. So we just like wanted to learn how to play the game because, I mean, as most people, when you just collect, you just don't know the rules.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just started learning how the game works, bought packs, of course, bought decks and everything. And then one day he just said, yo, not too far away from here, there's like a Pokemon tournament, the regional championship back in the day, or like state championships, how they were called. We went there, and yeah, I've been stuck in this community for 11 years now.
Wow. So you go. How old were you when you first started competitive? Like what?
13.
13. So what? Were you seniors?
Yeah, I started in seniors, and then like my first half a year, basically, when I played, and the first season was just like I played 2 tournaments in seniors. Then the season after was still seniors, but for the first half of the season, I was still just like playing whatever I had. Because back then, I mean, nowadays, you go to any tournament, you see someone that's like, hey, this is my first tournament, and he shows up with a full blinked out ADP Zacian deck, and you're like, okay. But back then, we were just playing with what we had, and then at Christmas in 2009, I decided to, like, for the first time, open booster boxes. So I just like on my Christmas wish list, I just put booster boxes. So I got 1 box from Platinum and 1 from Rising Rivals. So I just got a lot of like actual playable cards, built the SP deck, and then started playing Lux Chomp and went from there basically.
That's what's up. So when did you decide that like you're gonna start traveling and shit? Was that later on when you hit master? How was your like? Because I'm looking at your Limitless, and obviously it doesn't go all the way back to 11 years. But when did you decide that you were good at this game and that you were gonna take it serious?
So it's, I mean, in the US, I know a lot of people, like back in the day, of course, also like regionals traveled across the country and everything. But in Europe, we didn't really have like super big tournaments aside from nationals and then like some states. So at the beginning, I, for the first couple of years, just played the tournaments that were nearby. And if something like the European Challenge Cup or like nationals were somewhat nearby, or yeah, we just went there. And with time, it just like kept continuing. Like we went further. For example, at the beginning, the furthest I went was like 1.5 hours from home for like Battle Road, City Championships and everything. And then all of a sudden, when you got older, like we traveled 5 hours to regionals. went like via night bus and then went back, because back in the days you didn't really like book hotels and everything.
Right.
And then eventually, of course, the cash era basically came around, and you had to basically travel if you wanted to play the game actively. And that's also when I continued to travel out of like Germany, aside from like the European Challenge Cup, which I played like twice, I think, in the Netherlands, which is still pretty close to here. And then it just went further and further. Eventually, like ICs in Brazil, ICs in North America, and so on. And
Right.
like the first time I really like went out of the country was 2014 Worlds, when I played Worlds for the first
First
time.
time. Was that the first year you qualified? What sort
Uh,
of
I
first
actually I actually qualified in 2012, but
Okay.
first of all, it was Hawaii, so like super expensive.
Yeah.
And second, I was not 18, so I had to find someone to go with
With
me.
you.
So, and I
You're
didn't
like,
find someone, so I just couldn't go. So I had to,
okay.
and I actually didn't qualify in 2014. I went to play the last chance qualifier.
Oh.
So you basically had to like win 7 rounds in a row. I was 6-0 and then lost in top 8.
Ollie.
And actually, that was the only time when they only let 4 people through the LCQ. So every other year would have gone into the main event.
That's fucked up. Is it?
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of players about that. Do you like that system with the last chance qualifier better than what they have the open now?
It's really, really difficult. On one side, of course, last chance qualifier is like a super fiesta, because you just like you don't have your invite, and then you try to win a 7 round tournament, like go 7-0, otherwise you don't qualify, which is like
Right.
probably pretty demotivating for anyone that's not in the US, which like can buy cheap flights, for example.
That's true.
But I also don't fully agree with the current structure, because as it's right now, you have like the difference basically between place like 22, for example, in Europe, or 16 in America, and then 17 or 23 is so gigantic, because like one person gets a travel award to Worlds,
Yeah.
automatically qualifies for day 2, and the other guy gets nothing. So I feel like there should be some like in between, that people in a certain like placement get buys for like the day one. And I really hate the system of the open, because like Worlds is supposed to be Worlds, and actually if you don't make like top 16, top 32 at Worlds, you basically lose out on something, because you can't earn CP for the next season, and you also gain nothing because you don't get prizing. So they either should like reintroduce, which they had before, like CP if you are in day 2, or like pricing for every placement in day 2, or just remove the open altogether, because like right now that just like doesn't make sense and demotivates players, and then people have to try getting into the open if they don't get through day 1. So that's like all kinds of stuff that annoy people.
Remember it's called the Nashville closed because like no one could get into that fucking tournament.
Yeah, I mean that was crazy.
All right, guys, we're gonna open spots. We're gonna open 50 spots at 9:00. 9:00 hits. Nothing. You can't get in. It's full. I was like, what the fuck is that?
It's just super stupid. And the lower they will like set the invite, for example, in Europe it keeps like getting lower, or just staying about the same.
Right.
The more people will attend Worlds, and the more people attend Worlds, the more people will just like try to play the Open, because they're already at Worlds.
Yeah.
So they should just remove it, that like people can actually enjoy the like
I
World
agree.
Championship tournament, which is once per year. So it's like should be something special, and not like, okay, I might want to play the Open. And then even this year, where they had 2 Opens because there were
There
too
were
many
so many
people.
people. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
I don't know. I've always been an advocate of that. We need an off season. So like, it just feels so wrong to be like at Worlds, this huge tournament's happening, and then right behind you, the next season's already started. Some people are getting points for next year behind you.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like,
people are already grinding when the
Yes.
season is over.
I'm like, we need there needs a break. Like, I get
Yeah.
it. People like to play this whole thing, but like, all sports pretty much have a break. Like,
Yeah.
you need something. You need, even if it's like a month or 2, like, just give us at least Worlds. Like, that, you're right on that. It's a little ridiculous for, like, people are already grinding. And especially, like, if you're our top 16 player or 22 where you're at, like, that they get an advantage to start off the year. If you're, I did good at Worlds, but fucking Jesper won the fucking thing, so he's already up there. This is bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to do nothing for people that get eliminated from day one. They could just have different side events, like side events without CP.
Right. They could. There's stuff to do. There's stuff you can do. Like, I don't know. It's weird. And like, I seen on Twitter where everyone was talking about the grind for top 16 and how toxic it is. And I've always been an advocate of saying that it's not a good system, and it's like it just promotes very pay to be at the top.
Yeah, definitely. Especially now that they like did the bullshit with the 8 cups per quarter best finish limit.
That's fucking insane.
It's like, I mean, there are people that literally skip out on regionals to rather play double cup weekends.
Yep.
And I think that's not like how the game should be.
Yeah.
Should be played.
This, I don't know. I don't even know how. Like, people came up with a bunch of ideas on how to fix it, and like, when I read them, like, I don't know if that fixes it. It's just the whole system just needs a revamp, in my opinion.
Yeah. For sure.
But let's get back into you. So, what do you do outside of the game, or for work, or are you in school still, or what's going on with that?
I'm still in school. I'm studying business psychology. So
okay. So you're a student, which it's been a very very trend to see that most of the top players in this game are either full-time Pokemon or they're students that play Pokemon. And like, it makes sense, I guess. Like, you dedicate most of your time. Like, obviously you do well at school, or you try to do well at school, but then the rest of your time is dedicated to Pokemon, which is it's good. I think that I'd like to see some type of trend where you get a player that's like a full-time working person that's good, but it's hard. I mean, the grind is so hard in this game.
I mean, it's hard to find the time to test. And also motivation, if you like work X amount of hours per day and then you still need to motivate yourself to like play test and everything.
Yeah, it's a little nutty. So I'm looking at your limit list. So obviously most of your events are in Europe. When did Europe decide to be like so like when you look at it, Europe now, like, obviously you guys get a lot of shit for, like, it's Europe, they have lower players and this, but when you go international, you guys dominate. So it's like, where did that even come from? Like, I don't like, Limitless has been, is it just you guys found a good group of players and it is what it is? Like, you guys are dominating that way?
I mean, of course, we found a super like good group of players to test with and talk about, like super strong players that like have been. I mean, most of them have been, or like most of us have been in the game for more than 10 years. So, of course, the experience also adds to this. And yeah, I mean, I guess Todd ended up making the decision that Europe is going to be broken when he won the first NAIC, and then
you just kept going. Yeah, like. It's pretty nutty because, like, I mean, to be honest, you guys didn't have the respect that you guys have now, and even today, if you listen to any of some of the content on YouTube when they talk about these European regionals, it's like, do they really count? I'm like, yeah, like, Nico just won the fucking internationals. Like, what they're doing is they're doing something special, and like, to be honest, when's the last time Americans won Worlds? Like, exactly. I'm like, you want to sit here, you want to sit here and talk about how American regionals are so much harder because there's so many more people and the players are good. It's like, yeah, but when's the last time we're like really performing in huge events? I mean, we get some ICs, like you get Danny in them, but it's not as consistent as someone like Tord or Gustavo Wada or Stefan. Like, these international players, like there might not be a lot of you, but you guys are very dominant.
I mean, of course, before like ICs and everything was, I mean, it's fair to assume that Europe was a weaker region up until like shortly before the cash era. There was rarely any Europeans in like Worlds finals or Worlds top 4, and of course, like our tournaments were way smaller. Like our regionals like had 50 players because we had like so many, and they were like spread out and everything. And American regionals, of course, but I mean, they also had a bigger prize pool, so it makes sense that they had more players. But then of course ICs came around, and I guess most of us Europeans like want to show the rest of the world how strong Europe is, because like we always sit here like, Europe is a joke, or if someone won like a national championship in Europe, was like, yeah, it's a joke because it's just Europe. And yeah, I think Europe has proven well in the last 3 to 4 years that we are the best region, and yeah,
right. I think like it's really cool to be a part of like a European culture or any culture outside of the U.S. because you guys back each other. Where like in the U.S., like we'd rather fight each other. Like you don't see like everyone just like backing the best players in the United States as like a group. But like when you guys come over or the Brazilians or any culture outside of America, basically, it's like you guys have a group of people that are like, we're here to prove ourselves, you know, where Americans are just like, woo, whatever, we're the best. And it's like, oh, well, I don't know. It's not looking so hot right now, guys. But I really do think, like, because I had Danny, the owner of DDG, on my last podcast, and we talked about that whole forming a great team where you have like 6 to 7 good minds in the game, and I think Limitless doesn't get that as much credit as DGG does because the run that DGG had last year. But Limitless, internationally and worlds wise, like you guys have fucking dominated, and I think it's because you guys do have that same type of mindset where you have, like you said, players that play 10 plus years and you all work together. And I think you said it when you said you want to prove that Europeans are the best players in the world. And I think that extra motivation makes it a little, you guys get that little hop over everyone. When it comes to Limitless, when did you get involved in that, and like how involved are you, and how did that even form?
Yeah, so that was like towards the end of the last season where we didn't have like ICs and everything. A couple of us, like Robin and me, of course, and then 3 other guys, we decided to make the team because there was like another German team basically, which was like technically only one player that got sponsored by Card Market, which is basically like a European TCG player. And then we decided to like also make a team, message them, and yeah, then we like got shirts and got sponsored by them. And eventually we just like grew as like a group of players, of course. And then after like 2 years of Limitless, eventually like Robin started doing the website, and yeah, like we started doing streams shortly before that, and that has all like developed. Of course, most of the like founding members aren't there anymore except Robin and me, but we got like other very good players. Like Philip, of course, joined super, like, I mean, not even half a year after we founded the team. But that was like, he only wasn't a founding member because back then he was like kind of taking a break from Pokemon, not really playing too much. But then when the cash era got announced, of course, he got like motivated again because there was actually like so much money now in the game, and you could actually like get really well rewarded for being good at the game. I mean, before that, it was just like, okay, sometimes you might just like break even on regionals because you win like a booster box, but you also have to pay like train tickets and everything. And the only reason why, like the only tournaments where you could actually like prove yourself was like nationals and worlds. And now you could actually like constantly try to go for like those big finishes, put effort into the game, and actually be rewarded. So that helped a lot. And then, of course, eventually we got like Pedro, Fabian, Jesper. They all joined the team.
Well, whose idea was it to put Jasper on the team? Let's start there.
Actually, that was my idea.
Oh, so your biggest regret in life or what?
No.
No, you love Jasper.
Sometimes
I love the kid. He's my favorite player.
Sometimes he can be a little stupid, but I mean, everyone is sometimes a little bit.
It was so funny this weekend. He was like 3-0. And he's like in the group chat with me, and he's like 3-0, baby. I'm like, all right, dude, just finish this out. He like fucking takes it. Yeah, just does shit. I'm like, wow. Then he goes into the cup the next day, and he gets back in the chat. He's like 4-0, baby. I'm like, oh, so it's time to fucking lose? Is that what we're doing here? He's like, no, dude, no, not this time. Oh, I love that kid. But like Limitless as a whole, like this website is insane. Like the there's no source like this where everything's so simple, like a simple click. And like, is this all like you and Philip and Robin that are doing like all the coding and stuff for this, or do you guys hire people, or how does this all go down? Because it's so well put together. Like I use this on my podcast every week.
I mean, the coding is mostly just Robin. Like
Really?
Philip and I, like we don't even have a clue how to do anything like this. But of course, like we all put a lot of like thought in the like how we want the website to look at the beginning, like what should be on there. I mean, all the stuff like the rankings where you could like see, okay, what's the most successful team, who are the most successful players, just like all of this. And I mean, that basically started because there was like a website that collected pictures of deck lists, like on Tumblr, and it just felt like super inconvenient. And on like the Limitless website, the decks are like much better collected, and you can just like it's like way better to just like search for stuff, like
Dude,
see what you want to see.
Like this is the best shit ever. Like if you had to think of like a perfect way to do it, I think you guys did it. Like, I don't know, it's perfect. Dude, whose idea was it for the pricing? Where like hiring,
Actually,
that shit is sick.
Actually, I don't know, but probably Robin's idea.
Yeah.
I guess.
That shit is so funny. I'm like, damn, my deck was worth that much. I could have played it for $10. What was I doing?
Yeah, I mean,
It's funny. But let's look at your stats. So pretty much this pretty much starts in the money area. You had decent finishes in the 4 regionals, and you played almost 4 different decks. Are you an advocate of sticking to one deck, or you get with your team and you guys just decide what the best deck is?
that really depends. Like a lot of times, for example, in like 2017, 2018 season, like we switched basically after every tournament. I mean, you could see like Sydney, where we all played Surugati, taught one with Surugati. We performed like super well with the deck, but we still switched 1 week after.
Yeah.
Because we expected people to, of course, try to counter the deck, and we just expect the meta to change. But then there's also times like last season when I played Zap Beast for 4 tournaments straight.
Right.
I mean, it just depends. Like when I find a deck that I really, really like, I of course like to continue playing it if it stays good, because you get more and more practice with the deck, and like you're way less likely to misplay, for example. But that's also like a treat that hurt me in the past when I played Greninja for an entire season, basically, and yeah,
dude, your team let you
really
down
the
on
best
that
idea.
one. Your team let you down on that one.
Yeah, they should have just like eventually they led me to good decks when I started playing Darkrai, but that was a little too late. Barely missed out on top 22, but season after
you got
Greninja
13th with Greninja, right? I see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's the problem. Like, because I got that one result at the first region, I was like, yeah, the deck is good. Let's continue.
It's the best deck ever. That's what it is. That's what's up. You like you said with the Zap Beast thing, because I see that with a lot of players, and a lot of players I have on this, that they find that one deck, and they just stick with it. And I think your explanation was really good when you said it really just depends on the meta. Going. Let's jump into, because obviously you've had good runs, right? You've had great runs. You've won special events and stuff, but you haven't hit that big marker like you did this weekend. Going into this international championship, you got, obviously you played Mewtwo, Welder, which was a very popular deck before this format. Is that one of the biggest reasons you got stuck with that, because you knew it was good and you didn't need to like rethink the format? You're like, this is good, it didn't get worse, we're just gonna stick with this.
I mean, the big reason was Todd, because he, of course, played Mewtwo Welder basically ever since Worlds.
Okay.
And so, of course, he was like very experienced with the deck, kept testing it for this format as well. And then when we showed up in Melbourne, I mean, of course, we already talked a lot and tested a lot when we were still in Europe, but haven't really touched that deck too far. That was mostly like Todd's own project that he worked on, where we just like tested all the popular decks. And then in Melbourne, he shows up with the deck, and the deck was like, I mean, the initial list was pretty far off from what we ended up playing, like 10 cards off. But we just kept working on the list, eventually added Victini, for example, which like had a major impact and was like one of the big deciding factors where we ended up with the deck. And then we just tested it. Since we tried all the other decks, we came up with basically optimal to close to optimal list as we thought for every deck, so we could actually test this deck against the deck, like the list that we expect to be the best. So if Mewtwo would like beat all of those decks consistently, why not just play it if it can beat all the top decks? And it ended up beating all the top decks, so like, yeah, we ended up playing Welder.
So when you go when you're testing, did you expect that much ADPization that there was?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone going into the tournament expected Zacian ADP to be the most played deck. A lot of people before the tournament said it's going to be BDIF. And yeah, I mean, it showed up in like huge numbers, 50% in day 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we like any deck that we like built or tried, we wanted to make sure that we have at least 50-50 to favored matchup against ADP Zacian, because otherwise there's no reason to play a deck.
Were you even considering playing that?
Because I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like the other half of us ended up playing ADP Zacian, like Pedro, Jesper, and Robin.
Okay.
They ended up playing ADP. I mean, of course, Pedro has been playing ADP the last format already, so he was very used to the deck and wanted to play it. And then Robin always likes to play the new deck because, I mean, it makes sense because technically, yeah, I mean, cards just keep getting better and better. So if there's a card like Zacian, why not play it? Like immediately when we arrived in Melbourne, Robin was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play Zacian deck."
He's like, obvious.
So
okay, because like a lot of times you see in these big events where you have these meta discussions that happen on YouTube and they talk about the best decks and everything. It's almost come to like believe that the top players are not going to play these decks. They're going to play decks that beat this deck. Yeah, and like you see that a lot. So that's why I asked like, was that even an option? Because like going into the tournament, a lot of people had the Welder version of this deck in like out of the top 5. Not even like they're like, oh, the Mallomar version is so much better. And did you guys look at the Mallomar version and try that at all, or was Tord like, we're playing Welder?
Yeah, I mean, until 2 days before the tournament, actually, Mallomar Mewtwo was like my top pick.
Okay.
Because that was what I tested by far the most. But then I ended up playing against Tord, and he 8 games in a row hit weakness gut energy turn 1, and I just kept losing every game. And after the 7th one, I was like, okay, Tord, if you hit the turn 1 weak gut energy again, I'm dropping my deck and I'm playing yours. And yeah, he hit the weak card, so
that's hilarious. You're like, yep, this deck's trash. Weak card's busted. What's your? I do want to talk. I want to talk about your top 4 matchup. Obviously, you didn't have top 8 matchup, and
Yeah.
What was the feeling going into when that happened? Was it like, oh, cool? I just won $1,000 or something?
And that was super weird. Like, of course, Zach and Todd were playing on stream, but they were planning on having 2 stream matches, so like 2 top 8s. So they, of course, started Zach and Todd already, and they were like, okay, the rest, like we're gonna do deck checks and everything, and like they did my deck check, and I was like the entire time the guy wasn't around, like James Cox, he just wasn't there. And yeah, they were just doing our deck checks. Like they even told me, like before Zach and Todd even went on stream, yeah, you're gonna be on stream. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to play the matchup on stream because if I choke, then everyone's gonna see it. So, but yeah, then I went to the deck check, got my deck back, like everything was fine, and I stood there, and then some guy came up, yeah, your opponent's gonna get DQ'd, and I'm like, okay, but I don't really believe it, especially like they told me immediately, yeah, he's gonna get DQ'd because he submitted like a joke deck list with 1 basic and 15 energies, and I was like, there's no way that's true. So like I'm always the kind of person, like if something like a game loss for my opponent or whatever, or like a DQ, whatever happens, I'm really skeptical until I get judge notifications because I don't want to get too excited, and then in the end I still have to play, for example, because someone like trolled me or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but then the judges called me to them and showed me the match. They were like, yeah, your opponent is getting DQ'd, and he assigned the match slip.
Fuck.
I mean, I was already making game plans for the matchup anyways, and I was pretty confident that I'm going to beat him anyways.
He was playing
but
Mill,
I mean,
right?
yeah.
Like
normally Mill is a super good matchup anyways.
Yeah.
But he played his tech against Stinger. He played Aerodactyl. So you have to be careful to like not just run into him just KOing you when you Stinger. So you actually always have to Stinger with a weak card attached. But as long as you can get that, the matchup is still super easy. So if I it basically just comes down to he has more outs, like more ways to potentially mill my outs with like a Bryceman, for example. If he mills my weak card energy, I can't find it. Okay, I lose. But other than that, I should still win the matchup. So I was still very confident in the matchup. But of course, it's like much better if you just being told, yeah, you win. So,
right?
Yeah.
That's nuts. Like, I don't know. That whole situation is like, how could someone do that? And like, people are like trying to defend him. Like, I'm like, at the end of the day, he just needs to take responsibility for him not double checking his list. Like,
I mean, the problem is, of course, you can say, yeah, he submitted a joke list. There's no way that this is his real list. That shouldn't be like DQ. But on the other side, he played 14 rounds with a non-check deck. Like, he could have switched his deck at any point in the tournament. Of course, like, he probably didn't, but it's still possible that he switched his deck because there was no official deck list. So, I mean, normally, like, a deck list error is like a game loss or match loss at most. But, I mean, there's no way to check it, and it's like top 8 in an IC, so of course they could have given him only like a game loss. I mean, or like a match loss that I would have still won and he would have been in top 8. But I think it's fair towards all the other players that submitted correct deck lists and everything that he like gets removed from the tournament. Of course, it sucks for him, but I think he will learn from it. He will learn from it.
It sucks most for the guy who got 9th. because he could have been. He had the same record as him, and he could have made it.
I mean, funnily enough, like the 9th place Jack, he actually was one of the people that were
defending him. Right?
Yeah, defending him the most. We're like, yeah, the DQ's bullshit and everything, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There has to the judges have to make a decision in the end.
Right. I hope no one was giving you shit about that because at the end of the day, obviously, you have nothing to do with anything. So
no, I only got. I mean, I didn't get flamed, but like the judges got flamed for like the top 4 stuff when my opponent got a double prize penalty.
Dude,
but
that's not your fault either.
Exactly, and also it's not like he got a prize penalty for just like not shuffling enough ones. He definitely got some like warnings prior in the tournament, like because that's how those rulings work. Like you never get punished immediately. For example, Azul. 2018 LAIC when he like lost his finals because of slow play when his opponent was like playing even slower. But the problem was Azul already received a warning in the tournament, so he got the prize penalty. His opponent didn't, and that was just like the issue against him when he didn't shuffle enough. He already didn't shuffle enough prior in the tournament, so
right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that top 4 matchup. Going into that Obstagoon bullshit, were you confident, or that seems like not a great matchup for you?
Yeah, I was confident. I was confident that I was gonna lose.
Okay, that's what I thought. Like in my head, I'm like, I don't know how he wins this shit. But
Yeah,
I'm like, obviously you're gonna try to stinger and then go from there. But like,
I mean, of course, there is a game plan. Like in game 1, I got the game plan off, but it's like a super unlikely game plan because you need to stinger, then you need Hood, Psychic Energy, and Weak Guard Energy on your Baby Blaze. So they need to get all of this up while not like losing in the meantime. So that, of course, like, it was lucky that I got it off once. Then second game, he just got his regular game plan. I whiffed the Psychic Energy by 1 card when I could have won the game.
that fucking 1 card.
Yeah, I mean, I even checked with half.
You played it right. You played it right. But off by 1 card, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then in game 3, of course, like the shuffle penalty. And then I even like asked the judge to make sure, okay, what happens when I stinger when he gets a prize penalty? Does the penalty reset or something?
I didn't know that's how that worked.
Yeah, I mean, I also didn't. And then I asked, and he was like, "Yeah, no, the prize penalty overrides." And then me tunnel visioning super hard, not realizing that my Mewtwo had exactly 4 damage counter.
Dude, I thought you lost.
Going for stinger, and then he plays down communication. I'm like, wait.
Yeah,
I could lose here if he finds an energy.
One energy,
evil tower. Yeah, but then thankfully he didn't hit it.
Whiffed.
Yeah.
Oh, he whipped the switch, didn't he? I think so.
I'm actually not sure. Like I'm pretty sure he already like made the face that he lost before even using Stellar Wish, so I assumed he whiffed the energy.
You looked at his face, you knew. You're like, I got it. But that energy, I was like, what the fuck? But the stinger thing is, like, because I played a lot of fucking Checkmate, because Pedro showed me the list you guys were going to play at NAIC with Mr. Mime and Jirachi Prison Star.
Yeah.
So he showed me that list, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm playing that until this isn't legal anymore. So I've been playing Stinger, that, and, like, I had a situation where there was a prize penalty, and like I had just assumed that the prize penalty didn't mean shit because like I'm gonna stinger anyways, you know. But the way they did it for you is like you only have to take 1 prize. I'm like, damn, I should have. That shit's so busted. Like that makes stinger even. It's so easy. But do you think?
Just insane.
Yeah, I don't know if he hits that fucking energy. That. Yeah. I was like, when I seen that, I'm like, I seen it coming too. I was like, wait, that shit has 4. Is he gonna do this? He's gonna do this. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I had all the time in the world. I could have just set up a second Mewtwo.
Yes, you did.
I didn't have to stinger that turn.
Well, I know. I was like, I wonder why. All right. Didn't you hit him with a stab too, though? I don't know. I can't remember. But. But anyways, you got by that. I was like, one thing one of my buddies brought up, I don't know, do you think going forward that we should respect Obstagoon or what?
I mean, it's really difficult. Like the deck, I mean, there was 1 in day 2 and he got top 4, but I mean, there's also a reason why there was only 1, because I mean, of course, there were like a decent amount of people playing Obstagoon. And I think it's weird because I mean it has a decent matchup against all the top decks, but then it's like kind of inconsistent. So it's really weird. Like I wouldn't put too much thought into like trying to counter Obstagoon, but if your deck can play something to beat Obstagoon, you like should probably play it.
Yeah, because my buddy brought up, because obviously a lot of people are going to start playing your list. He's going to put a Muck in the deck because it's like. Yeah, one psychic, 2 fires, and it does poisons for 80 damage in between turns. Like, I just win. But
yeah, I mean, mod decks are probably gonna like do those like one-off decks that can improve the Goons matchup, but are usually like useless. Like no, I mean it's usually after ICs the top 4 decks are heavily played after. So I mean it makes sense because they will probably, especially like this weekend and next weekend, a lot of people just like, oh, Obstagoons maybe isn't too bad. Let me just play the deck.
Especially in Cups. I think in Cups you should be ready for Obstagoon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's jump into your finals matchup. I want to talk about it because I assume you're very confident because Tord played that matchup, and I feel like if he was going to win that matchup if because game 1 obviously went really bad for him right off.
Yeah, I mean we all know he definitely threw. Like
yes, he definitely threw.
No question asked. He knows himself. Like
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like again, it was like super helpful to stay or like test with all those like good players from Europe. We talked about the matchup a lot on Saturday. Figured out game plans for different situations. In the end, I didn't really get to execute my game plans that we came up with because my prices weren't exactly cooperating with me.
Both the games you played, it was like horrible setups. Like you had terrible starts. He had terrible starts too, but I think your deck was just so much more versatile. You could do a lot of things, and he was pretty straightforward. You knew what he was gonna do.
Yeah, I mean his opening was pretty strong with like Victini for 3 energies both games, but yeah, I mean Mewtwo is like super versatile, so I can just adapt to different situations. Whereas he can only like do one game plan. Of course, he has different attackers, but most of them only make sense in certain situations. For example, of course, he can't just go for Victini Prison turn 1, like take me for 80 or whatever. So I mean, Solgaleo, of course, was like MVP by finals both games, and
I think that is true. I forgot because his first hand was so trash, and then out of nowhere he like has 6 energies on board. I'm like, all right, well, Nico's in trouble, boys. I'm messaging Pedro. I'm like, and Pedro's like, I'm like, he's got the catcher, right? And then you catch her. I'm like, he wins. He did it, boys. He did it. And I was like, you knew Zach was just like, fucking, I'm so stupid. But I think that all comes down to like, you had people on your team that you were able to talk to that actually played that matchup multiple times.
I mean, I also played the matchup. Like I actually faced Zach in day 2.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
did you crush him there too, or what?
I mean, I lost game 1 because I misplayed, but then I won the other 2. Yeah.
Okay, so you were super confident going into that final match.
Yeah, I mean, like we all knew if things weren't going completely horrible on my side, and he wasn't just like high rolling super hard, that I'm just gonna win the matchup.
Right. That's what I thought. Because even in the matchup with Tord lost that first game because is that the game where he Dedenne 3 Welders away?
Yeah, that's like when he lost all his Welders. Yeah. I mean, it's still super stupid that he gets like game loss 2 games after when he lost the game anyways. I mean,
dude, the whole situation was stupid. Like he already lost the game. Even the like obviously there's some of the community that's gonna be like, oh, that looked intentional, but like it definitely doesn't look intentional to me. Like,
I mean, he didn't even quick ball for something useful.
That's what I said. I was like, wait a minute. If the quick ball would have done something like insane, like you're like, oh shit, he needs 2 Pokemon to do this. How is he gonna do it? And then he did that. Then okay, that makes sense. But like that quick ball really just didn't have an impact.
Yeah, I mean, that was just like a stupid mistake from him.
Right. And like he apologized right away and the whole thing. But to be completely honest, I think Tord gets a pass by a lot of people. Where if it was someone like, I don't know, let's throw Raul or someone like that out there, like I feel the backlash just because their personalities are so more like they can be negative online and shit, and they say shit. the backlash should have been so much more. Like, I feel like Tord just, his stock just went up. Like, he literally did something horrible, apologized for it, and then people are like, oh god, he's such a great guy. Did you see that? I was like, but if it was like Raul or like Danny Altamira, like, I knew that piece of shit was a cheater. I knew it. But
I mean that just shows like how good of an image Todd has built for himself.
Yes,
so
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he, by far, like, might have the best image as a player that's like as good as he is. You know, that it performs as well as he does.
Yeah.
So you win the tournament. Like how much of that, like, is this the best feeling you've had in your Pokemon career?
Like, I mean, it's like, weirdly enough, I think it felt better to make top 8 at the event than actually winning, because like up until this like OCIC, I've never made top 8 at an IC. I've only gotten I've got top 16 once, top 32 once. That's it at ICs. So I was always like, I mean, of course I have all those like amazing players: Robin, won Worlds, won LAIC, Philip, multiple top 8s, multiple top 4s at ICs, Pedro top 4 at Worlds, won an IC, Todd won 3 ICs, made another finals. So you just like see all of those players and you're like, I also want like one of those top 8s, because I feel like every player gets their top 8. Like Rahul finally got his top 8 at EOIC. Like he was also chasing it so much after like barely losing his win and in against Henry at OCIC last year. So you see more and more players just like getting their, like finally getting their top 8, and like finally getting like, I mean, it wasn't even in the last round, it was just like the round before when I beat Danny, because I knew I could just like ID the round after, or like even lose and would still be in a good spot to like still based on tiebreaker make top 8. There was actually a better feeling, like happiness wise. The finals was more like a relief, because I had so much like pressure basically on myself, because how many times are you going to get the chance again to play in an IC final, and then if you lose, you lose, and probably won't get the chance unless you're taught, then you get 4 other chances.
Come on.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, like actually making top 8 was probably the better feeling. I mean, winning top 8 would have probably also been an amazing feeling, but I didn't actually get to play.
Hey, we take this though.
I mean, of course, like winning was still amazing, but I feel like making top 8 was actually like felt better.
Right. I feel like a lot of players that go through what you went through, where you make that top 8, you almost feel like, all right, like I did it. Like whatever happens now, who cares, you know? But
yeah.
I feel like you fought through that. Like you were able to go, you know what, I can win this tournament. I don't know. You had such a weird run. Like obviously you get the free pass, and then you get like a fucking horrible matchup. So like I feel like you're almost the exception of like the person that's like, I'm good with my top 8, and like you just fell into a championship. You're just like, oh, fuck it, I'll take it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the stars aligned in my favor that weekend, and yeah,
it's pretty dope. Because I hear it a lot where people, they get to their top 8 and they're content with top 8, and then by the time the tournament's over, they're like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like I should have played as hard as I can to win the tournament, but I like felt relief after I got top 8, and then I like fucked up. And I feel like you felt that relief of like, I did it. I made top 8, and then you got the free pass, and then you did fuck up in the obstacle, but we fucking made it past that, and then you hit the fucking championship versus like a very confident matchup, and I like to see that. That's kind of dope.
I mean, I feel like both things go kind of hand in hand. You can be relieved, but you also can still like keep your focus, still try to win more, because like I've always been that kind of guy. For example, when I made my first regional finals, I also was like, okay, I just want to get a trophy this tournament, like top 4.
Yeah, let's get top 4.
But then I still like tried super hard to win top 4, and then of course like I also tried in finals. So I feel like that's important to like stay hungry, basically. Like even if you get that super big result. Like for example, now, like of course I won the IC, but I still really want to do well at Worlds. So
Right.
I'm still not gonna like get lazy, stop grinding. So
That's good.
yeah,
I feel
will
like
just continue.
I think that breeds the type of competitors you surround yourself with. Like you said, literally the people that you play with, their chart of work is insane. Like Pedro and Philip and Robin and Tord, and you're like I need my dues. I need this, and you surround yourself with people like that. And I feel like a lot of players, like even myself, when I got the top 8, and I've said this story multiple times on here, I was happy. I like got the top 8. I didn't have that person with the experience that's done that to go, all right, buddy, it's time to win. Like it's time. Like this isn't. You can win this. And it wasn't until I lost the top 4, I go, what the fuck was I doing? Like I should have because I misplayed so hard in top 4. I was playing Archies and I didn't put Archies in my discard pile.
Ooh.
Yeah, and yeah. It's like, how do you get this far and do that? Like, it was just like, oof. And it wasn't on stream, so there's no proof. So if you're listening to this, that did not happen. All right,
Okay.
guys.
Let's see.
But
Yeah.
I think it's if anything, people that are listening to this, because a lot of times, a lot of unknown players or people that aren't associated with teams, they do find their way into top 8s. And if you are listening to this, you can win, guys. You can win. Just fucking focus. Top 8's cool, but winning is way cooler, guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you make top 8, you already won like 10 rounds or whatever, and you just need to win 3 more.
Right, 3 more, win the whole thing. The grind through an IC, especially I think the grind through OCIC might be the hardest because it's so small and there's so many good players. Like Jesper was hitting like Pedro, and then like it's just back to back to back of like killers. Is that do you agree with something like that? Where you see a smaller tournament be a harder grind through day 1?
I mean, it really depends. I mean, of course, you're more likely to like hit good players, but you can also just pass them. But I mean, from what I've heard, or like what most people think, it's like NAIC is the easiest because you just have. I mean, it's fun. I mean, for example, like compared to this OCIC, NAIC was like 3 to 4 times the amount of players.
Yes.
So of course you have much more. Like the player level, of course, is much lower. Like I faced, like in my day 1 already, I faced Jake Miller, Robin, Michael Pramovet,
Right,
and then and also like the rank 1 Japanese player from last season. Like that's already 4 amazing players in 9 rounds. And then, of course, day 2, of course, in day 2 you face good players, but I ended up facing Danny. I faced Bird, and then I would have faced Todd, but thankfully we could have we ID. Yeah. So yeah, I mean the player level is definitely very high, and I mean I don't think any international is particularly like much easier, because eventually you will have to play against good players. Like even like the top 8 from this tournament could have been the same in LAIC, same at NAIC, and you would still have to beat the same players.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's probably easier to like get day 2, but day 2 is where the real grind starts anyways, and there the player level is about the same at NAIC.
Right. I think I'm just gonna throw this out there. This is my opinion. I do believe the OCIC is the hardest of the ICs because the numbers are so small, but the players are so stacked. Just like you said, the names that you named off in day 1, that would never happen. That you are the most unlucky person in the world if that happens at any other tournament. Like it's just it's so rough, and for you to do something like that's fucking dope, especially on your first one. I think, you need more credit for this tournament. You crushed it. And we gotta get you that Taco Bell sponsor, and I owe you some some drinks in fucking NAIC because,
Indeed.
dude, I was talking so much shit. I was like, I tweeted when you made day 2. I tweeted you. I was like, congratulations on your first day 2. But I was like, the only person that's gonna remember that is fucking Pedro because that kid at fucking Dallas when he came out to us, and I was like, Nico, been playing 20 years, never day 2. Nico's like, I'm out.
Fucking Pedro. Fucking Pedro.
Oh, shit was so funny. And then it wasn't until I'm like, oh, he made day 2, he's doing well. And then I'm like, he's 3-0 in day 2. I messaged Pedro, I'm like, hey, Nico's winning this, right? And he's like, yeah, Nico's winning. And I'm like, fuck, he did it. Yeah, and I think it was really cool to see how much support you got online from a lot of players. Especially the Taco Bell shit, like that drives you, dude. We have to fucking figure that out because the whole meme in the chat was insane. Every time you did anything, like it came down to like one point. It's like, well, how much does Zach like Taco Bell? Like, are we really like who likes Taco Bell more? I'm like, no one likes Taco Bell more than Nico. All right, guys.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fact.
Those are facts. But I think before we wrap this up, I just want to get like what's your end goal here when it comes to competitive Pokemon? Obviously, you're in school. You're gonna graduate eventually. Is Pokemon forever for you? Are you hanging it up eventually? Are you gonna start real life and get kids and shit and play Pokemon? Be a Poke dad? Like what's going on here? Or is this something you just haven't thought of?
It's hard to tell because it really depends like how motivation sticks and everything. I mean, of course, like the end goal technically is winning worlds, like for every player. But exactly. Winning worlds also probably wouldn't mean that like I would quit right after, for example.
I'm walking away if I win worlds, just so everyone knows. Peace.
So it's like it's hard to tell. Like I don't know how many more play, but for the near future, I will definitely continue playing. And then of course like graduating and then like real life, like job, family, everything. I mean, that's of course like something that's gonna happen, but we will see how fast and how like Pokemon will still be involved. Yeah. But I think like Pokemon will definitely be. I mean, it will like a part of me will always be part of Pokemon, whether I play or not. But yeah, we will see how long I will be part of this game.
All right, maybe you're moving to Australia. You might have found someone out in Australia you like. No, maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Maybe. That's so great. On that note, dude, we'll wrap this up. You got any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like the players I've talked about in this podcast, they helped me a lot to grow as a player, especially Philip, because he was like the person that got the most competitive the earliest when the cash era started. So he was always someone you could really look up to because of his like the work that he put into the game and like the talent that he brings as well. And he also like helped me a lot to just like improve the mentality and everything to how to view the game. For example, a lot of people just like blame luck or whatever or bad ING. And Philip taught me to just like stop doing that and focus more on like improving as a player. And then of course like Todd, definitely the best player in history. I don't think anyone still doubts that. I mean, of course people can still argue that Jason is the best player because he won 3 worlds, but that was ages ago. The player level was much lower, and what Todd has done, there will probably no one that ever matches that. And yeah, just like also all the support that I've gotten from people. I mean, just amazing people that I've met in the game that have supported me this weekend and in general. And yeah,
that's it. Yeah, well, I really appreciate you coming on, man. But for now, guys, we're gonna scoop it up.